Hello and welcome to another episode of Sam Interviews, the podcast where I interview people about their lives as well as their careers. This episode we are joined by comedian Chelsea Young. As always, make sure to follow the guest on social media. That is Chelsea Young 568 on Twitter and Chelsea Young 2003 on Instagram. As always, you can also follow me on social media. That is I am Sam Rick on Twitter and Sam James-Neal on Instagram. You can also follow the podcast on social media as well. It's chosen_subject on Twitter and chosensubject.podcast on Instagram. I hope you enjoy this episode. So I'm going to ask you a few questions that are like getting to know you instead of comedy, and then we'll go into the comedy later. So what is your favourite TV show?
Oh, it's got to be Taskmaster, for sure.
That's really good.
For sure.
Really, really good. What's your favourite series? That is the question.
Oh, okay, that's a tough one. I'd say my sort of comfort series is Series 5. That's the one that I always go back to. But
Yeah.
Series 7 is up there, and Series
Yeah.
2 as well. But I feel like I'm missing out. I feel like I'm missing out a series. Do you know what? They're all banging. They're all great. It's Series
They
5
are.
and 7, I'd say.
I think 7 was the one that got me into Taskmaster because I
Right.
watched it originally for James Acaster.
Okay, yeah.
So it's like the one that got me into it. And then I fell in love with the one with Ed Gamble. And then
That one's a
I
great
love
series. Yeah.
I love the first one so much. I think the first one's so underrated. I
It
think it's
really
got
is. Yeah.
such a good lineup.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the chemistry between the character, like the people and the friendships and stuff is just it's so good. It's so
It,
good.
it absolutely is.
Um, Apart from Taskmaster, do you have any like favorite TV shows?
I used to really, really love Brooklyn Nine-Nine. I know it's finished now, but that's a great one. 8 out of 10 Cats does Countdown. That was the first start sort of like comedy, like stand-up British comedy show that I started watching like years and years and years ago. So that's a firm favorite. Um, I love like the older stuff like Vic and Bob's Big Night Out, Shooting Stars, like old reruns of them. They're up there as well. Yeah.
They are all very, very good choices.
Thank you.
I recently watched the end episode of Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Like I put it off for so many like years and I just refused. And it's like the one where they're like saying goodbye and they're like, this is what happens behind the scenes and stuff. And I just refused to watch it. And I watched it recently and I was literally just messaging my friend being like, I don't think I'm ever gonna be okay. I'm so sad.
I'm sort of the same with that as the Big Bang Theory. I haven't actually watched half of the final series because like I know exactly what happens, but I haven't actually sat down and watched it. But like I grew up watching the Big Bang Theory, but haven't actually watched like the final like 5 episodes. I will get around to it at
I've
some
like
point, but
yeah,
I feel like there's gonna be tears.
I find it so hard watching the end of a TV show. It's so upsetting.
Yeah.
Especially because they tend to end and one of the characters leaving. And it's just like you've like gained a connection to these characters and
Yeah.
now they're just gone.
So like, did you ever watch How I Met Your Mother?
Yes, I did, yes.
Ruined the final episode, and I'm always so scared that they're gonna do that in TV series. Like,
Yeah.
why did she have to die? Why? Spoilers for anyone who's not seen the the
How
final
long's it been
episode.
out though? How long's it been out?
Oh, I think it's safe to spoil it now. It's been out for years. I think it's
Yeah.
okay.
Moving on slightly. What is your favorite book?
My favorite book.
Yeah.
Um, oh, that's a tough one. I'm probably The Knot by Mark Watson is very, very good.
Okay.
Um, I really like autobiographies though. So I read Kevin Bridges' autobiography years and years ago when I was like first getting into stand up, and that always stuck in my mind. Um, but there was a couple. There was one that I read at school, and I really really loved it, and I can't remember what it was called. Um, it'll come back to me, but it was wrote from like the um, it was written in a way that was like it was from an autistic person's mind. So like the way that it was written was really 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 interesting. I can't remember what it was called though, but I'll find that out.
Okay. If you remember it halfway through this episode, feel free to just randomly
I'll just
say
shout it out at you with no
it.
context.
Like I love comedians' books. I love them so much because I feel like
Yeah.
you also get to know the comedian a little bit more.
Oh, for sure, absolutely. I love listening to audiobooks from comedians, like with them narrating it as well,
Yeah.
because you really properly get to know them. You do. And a lot of comedians have like a lot of similarities in their younger life. Like a lot of them were like shy at school and like quite relatable stuff, which is always really nice.
Yeah. I'm reading Bob Mortimer's book while listening to the audiobook. And it's like Vic and Bob is something I used to watch with my granddad all the time.
Yeah.
So getting to know who like Bob actually is such a nice feeling.
He's got such an interesting life as well. Like
Yeah.
he's uber smart as well. Like really, really intelligent. It's
The one that I always go back to is Rob Beckett. I recently read Rob Beckett's book
oh, okay.
and I recommend that book so much. Like
I
I
haven't
love
read
Rob
that one,
Beckett.
so yeah.
I
Oh,
I
he's
read
great.
like I yeah, he is so good. I liked Rob Beckett and I was like, he's amazing. I love him. And then I read the book and the newfound appreciation and love I have for him because
Yeah,
of the book is it's like actually crazy because it's like my love for like him went from about 60 to 100. Like he's one of my favorite comedians now.
yeah. Oh, that's awesome. I really need to read that one. I saw that he had a book out ages ago, but I forgot to actually pick it up. But I do need to add that one to the collection. I do.
I really, really recommend it.
Yeah. Awesome.
What is your favorite type of music?
I'm a big old indie fan, big old psychedelic rock fan. Tame Impala, anything Tame Impala adjacent. But also like Arctic Monkeys, The Strokes, anything like that. I absolutely adore. I'll listen to
Very,
pretty
very
much
good
anything,
bands.
but
Yeah.
yeah, that sort of genre.
I think they're very, very good bands.
Oh, they're
They're
incredible.
really,
But
really good.
also when I've had a bad day, I'll whack on Lewis Capaldi all day, every day. I saw him live in 2019, and oh my God, it was the best thing in the world. It was incredible.
Cool.
It really was.
Like his music's really good, but I think he's one of the people that his music's good, but then you go and see like him live and it's 10 times better.
Oh, for sure. Like he sounded exact like he didn't need any auto tune or anything. He is just incredible. And he puts on like a proper show live as well. Like he's so funny. He really
Yeah.
is. He's great.
I just think the environment and everything in that would be so good.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, it
everyone
really
shouting
is.
the lyrics and just like a really, really nice environment. You do find that with a lot of concerts though, that
Yeah.
they are better
Oh, for sure.
live.
Yeah, I need to probably start getting into like going to see live music. Because I haven't been I saw like Justin Bieber when I was a kid. And like Ollie Murs when I was about 9. But I didn't really see that many musicians growing up. But that's something that I need to get into. I did actually have Tame Impala tickets, but it was during the Fringe, and it was in
Ah,
London. And trying to take off like 3 days during the Fringe to go to London was just like a no go. So I ended up just giving away the ticket. Gutted at that. I'll see Kevin Parker eventually. I will.
I need to see more live music. I see so much live comedy that I don't do live music.
Yeah. Yeah, I almost forget about it.
Yeah.
I automatically think like, oh, what am I gonna go see? And it's always like, I'll go see a comedy show. And I forget that there's always live music happening everywhere.
Yeah.
So I do need to actually branch out and go into that sort of
I
thing.
I tend to go watch like live music for a friend. So if a friend doesn't want to go alone, I'm always the one that they go and drag with them.
Yeah.
So the last concert I went to go see was 5 Seconds of Summer because my friend really wanted to go and
Oh
didn't know
yeah.
who to go with, so I ended up going. Before that, I went to go see BTS. Um, Another one because my friend was like so obsessed with them and didn't want to go
Very
alone. I really like these bands, but like I wouldn't be someone that went out and got tickets myself, but I kind of just get
yeah.
invited to them.
Yeah, I'd for sure go for the night out, and also like I really like BTS. I probably wouldn't pay for like the tickets and like going because they're not gonna do like Glasgow or Dundee or anything like that. They're gonna do like London. But if someone said, "Hey, I don't want to go along. I'm gonna go see BTS. It'll be a fun night out. Do you want to come with?" Ah, for sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
I would.
Um, the last time I went to a gig that like was my choice that was music was Slipknot. So kind of
Oh,
just
fair enough.
shows.
Yeah. Oh,
Um,
nice. Bit of a difference from 5 Seconds of Summer and BTS.
yeah.
I mean,
But like
all very good
I need to
choices,
see them
but
more.
yeah.
I need to see them more. I think that the vibe that you get in the different events, so you get a different vibe in comedy compared to what you do in music.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, definitely. I always found like because I grew up really socially anxious, I always felt like music events for me was just a little bit too like tense, if you know what I mean. If you didn't go with like the right people and like you weren't with the right group and it wasn't the right atmosphere. But comedy for me, I could go by myself quite easy. Um, but now I feel more inclined to go and try and go to music events. Like definitely.
I can sometimes, I don't know if this is like a thing, but I can sometimes feel really insecure and unsafe at music compared to comedy.
I can get that. Yeah, I think there's just so much more going on at
Yeah.
a music festival. Whereas when you go to see comedy, um, I mean, like shitty open mics in like a basement is a different story. But if you're going to like a theater show, whatever, or
Yeah.
like a tour show, you go in, you get yourself a drink, you sit down, you watch the show, and that's as stressful as it really gets. But there's so much more going on at a music festival.
I went to go see Helen Bauer last night and it just felt like everyone in the venue were just looking after each other.
Oh
It
yeah,
was so good.
that'd be a great one to go to. I love Helen. She's fantastic. She really is.
I I met her at like MacFest, which is like where comedians go before
Yeah.
Edinburgh. And she remembered me last night. She was like, "Yeah, I met you at MacFest on the street corner,"
Oh,
which was
that's
so
lovely.
nice.
That is so 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 lovely.
It was like it was so nice. It was really nice and it felt like a really safe environment. So
Yeah,
I think that's why I don't go to music as much.
I get you. Yeah, I'm pretty much the same. Yeah.
What is your favorite question that you have ever asked someone or been asked?
um, I I really like just asking people what the meaning of life is, just to see what they come up with. I just think it's quite funny putting someone on the spot like that. Um, I'm all for food related questions. What's your favorite food? What's the best type of salami to put on a cheese toasty? I'm all for those sort of questions. Most of the questions I ask people is like, what's your Greg's order? Like that's that's the sort of thing I want to know about people. So I'll
Very
go with that.
true. I think you can learn a lot about someone through their Greg's order.
I think so. Even when people come up to the counter and they've got like a bottle of water, like ready salted crisps, and like the tuna pasta that you get, I'm like, you've got bad vibes. Why have you not got a steak bake? You know, it's right there. Why have you got a bottle of water and a tuna pasta? But I mean, no judgment or whatever, but you can figure out a lot about a person with the Greg's order.
I do think that that's like, you know how people write down questions to ask on their first date?
Yes. Yeah.
I think that's definitely one to add on
90% of like all my Tinder conversations are just what's your Greg's order? Like that
that. As it
is
should
just
be. As
straight
it
out the
should
bat.
be.
That's the first thing I need to know. And if someone says like a single glazed donut, I'm like, okay, that's a red flag. That's a red flag.
You just
I'm
leave them
gonna
red and move on.
just gonna leave. There's nothing wrong with a glazed donut, but wait, when you can have like a bacon roll and a yum yum, like, come on. There's so many better choices.
I think that's so perfect. Just asking that on like a date.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, it's I didn't ask my boyfriend that until we went to Greg's and he ordered, and I just regret it now
What
because
was his
I made a
order?
really happy. He does. Oh no, this is like quite bad because he ordered the same thing every single time. He gets a steak bake. There we go.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's solid. That's solid. I get the same thing every time. If it's before 4 p.m., I'll get a steak bake and a flat white. If it's after 4 p.m., I'll get a pepperoni pizza slice and a flat white because you get the little £2 deal with the pepperoni pizza and the
Okay.
coffee. I'm all about the deals as well.
I'm about to say like, what is with the pizza after 4? Is it literally
Yeah,
just a deal?
after 4 p.m., I think it's £2.10 for a pizza slice and a drink, which I mean you can't go wrong. And then with my little 50% discount, it's like just over a quid. It's great.
That's perfect. Yeah. Um, what is something that you have read? I hate the word read because it's not seen, something you know, just like interest, like an interesting fact.
Interesting fact. Oh, suddenly I've forgotten all facts about everything. There's oh, okay, so this is bringing out my really 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 nerdy side. I collect coins. I have done for like 7 years. Got like a big coin collection. Um and there was a mistake that was made in 1970, no, 1983, on the two pences, where they had the wrong it had the wrong thing. It was supposed to say two pence and it said new pence, and they're now worth about £650. So
Oh
there's
my
a
God.
there's yeah, there's something like 180,000 two pences that are worth £650 each because of a tiny little mistake. That's quite a good fact to know if you're ever like checking your change or anything.
Yeah.
Never came
Um,
across it yet, but
do you like collect just any coins or is it always the ones with the different pictures on them?
it's always like commemorative ones. I do have like a little box of like old coins, but that was just because it was passed down to me. Like I didn't actually collect them. Um, but I'll have like I always collect 50 pences, and if there's ever like any mistakes on coins or anything like that, I'll look out for them as well. So like a
Yeah.
lot of £2 coins, like the inscriptions on the side, they'll be like smudged when they're being made, and they'll be worth like way more. I'll always look out for like those little things, because I'm an absolute nerd.
When I was very, very young, used to collect like 1 and 2p's. Like it was really
Yeah.
weird. I had a massive tub of them. I had a massive bag of them. Just I had so many to the point where I think I literally counted it up and I think I had like 50 quid in like one and two
Oh,
p's.
nice, nice.
Could have
That'd be
been
my
slightly
absolute
more.
dream. Yeah, just to
I
go
don't
through
know
all
why I
of them.
did it. I really don't know why I did it. I think it was because this is so dumb. This is so dumb. And I think I start doing comedy and I think I should write this in. Um, I think it's because you know the machines you can get that you put 1 and 2s in and they could
Mhm.
turn them into like £4.
Yeah.
I was convinced, this is so dumb of me, that they turn 1p into a pound. Not just like they
Oh,
counted it.
actually changed the coin
Yeah.
itself. Oh my God, that is great. I love that. Did you think it
So
got like a hundred? Like, did you think it got like 101 pences? Like, melt them down and like change, or like was every single individual 1 pence changed into a pound coin, and it was like some incredible money making scheme?
yeah, no, like I thought you'd just put like 1p in and then a pound would come out.
Oh, that'd be great. I wish.
I really do not know where that came from at all.
You should
I
absolutely write that in. That's really funny.
I don't know if it's because I like went to the co-op one day and there was this woman like putting a bunch of coins in and I couldn't see what she was putting in, but I could just hear the money coming out.
Right, yeah. Yeah.
So I think my brain told me, oh, 1p turns into a pound. Okay.
She's gonna be rich. Yeah. That's brilliant.
I think I should definitely write that into our stand-up, but It's embarrassing that I thought that.
I think it's funny though. I think you should definitely try that out. That would be great. Do you know what? That's not the most ridiculous thing though. When I was in first year of high school, my chemistry teacher told us that because if you butter bread, bread always lands buttered side down, right? But but a cat will always land on its feet. So so if you attach a piece of buttered bread to a cat's back, it would be in a state of uncertainty and it would hover. And so if you chucked a cat out the window with a piece of buttered bread on its back, it'd fly away. And I genuinely it is embarrassing that I genuinely believed him. I went on to study physics at uni, and I believed that if you buttered a cat, it would fly. So you're not alone in stupid thoughts like that.
I love that so much. Just like the wings for a cat.
I was actually like, I was like, this is like gonna change like aviation for the better, and all. Like, I got proper into it, and I went home and I told my dad, and he's like, haha, yeah, good one. And I was like, what? And he's like, you're not joking, are you? And I was like, no. And he's like, oh, Chelsea, oh dear, this isn't good.
I love that so much. Okay, and last one that is part of like the bit that isn't about career and stuff. Do you have any hobbies apart from stand up?
I used to do taekwondo quite a lot. I did taekwondo for like 12 years. I gave it up 2 years ago, but that was the path that everyone thought I was going to go down. They thought that I was going to be like a taekwondo instructor or whatever. So I was proper into that. And I did like boxing and kickboxing and like everything martial arts based for years. Um but apart from that, I don't really have any hobbies except for stand up now. It's consumed my entire life. But yeah, that's what I used to do.
I know it's completely different, but I did boxing for a while. I used to live in Scotland. I grew up in Scotland.
Oh, nice.
Um,
Whereabouts?
I used to live in Glasgow.
Oh, cool. That's
So
awesome.
I moved when I was like 11, 12. So
Right.
I didn't live there for too long. But when I was just like about to leave Scotland, I joined a boxing thing. Boxing?
Yeah.
Not boxing. Karate. That karate's the right word. That's the word
Oh,
I was
okay.
looking for. And I keep joking about the fact that because I didn't join for too long because I ended up moving, I keep joking about the fact that I have a white belt in karate. I'm like, do you think you can hurt me? I have a white belt in karate. You can't hurt me.
Better watch out. Yeah.
It's because like I was saying goodbye to them and stuff, and they like felt bad, so they gave me a belt to be like, here
Oh,
you go.
that's adorable. I love that.
So it's like a thing that's kept with me. I
Yeah,
think I would go back if I like could be bothered. I think I'd join back if I could be
that's fair
bothered.
enough. That's fair enough. I think I'd do the same, but again, I can't be bothered. I can't.
Okay, I'm gonna start the stand-up questions. So I have seen that you have met quite a number of comedians and quite like big names as well. Who's
Yeah,
the best comedian that you've met in terms of like them being nice?
that's that's such a tricky one because there's so many incredibly lovely comedians. I mean, Mark Watson straight off the bat. He's going to be top of the list for sure. I mean, like the man gave me a job during the Fringe. I mean, like I absolutely adore him to death. Um, so Mark's at the top, but I mean, there's so many. The comedians I worked for at the Fringe were all super lovely. Will Duggan, he gets a huge shout out. He's great.
Love him. He's so nice.
He's just the best. I absolutely adore that man. Um, who else? Ori Styler. He is incredibly lovely. Um, who else? Rachel Fairburn. Oh, she was so sweet. She's so lovely. There's some really, really, really nice names. Adam Rowe, he was super nice. There's quite a few. There's quite a few. But I can't say I've ever met like out of the big name comedians. Oh, Nish Kumar, he was great. Out of the big name comedians, I can't think of any that have been like unpleasant to talk to by any means. Like they've all been super nice, which has been great because people say never meet your heroes, and I think that's a load of rubbish. I think you should always meet your heroes. Definitely.
Going back to Will Duggan, I interviewed him, I want to say last month, and he was he was actually
Oh,
so
he's
nice.
just he's so funny to talk to as well.
Yeah.
I could speak to Will for hours. Like every time he finished his show, he had a show at the Pleasance at like 3:25. It ended at 4:25, and I always had like an hour break at the Fringe. So I'd be at the Pleasance, and every single time it got to 4:25, I was like, I'm gonna go speak to Will Duggan. That'll be lovely. That's gonna cheer me right up. He's a sweetheart, he really is.
He's so nice. He spent about an hour and a half, I think it was, speaking to me as part of like the interview,
Yeah.
which was just so nice.
Oh, he's just the sweetest guy. He really is.
Yeah. In terms of like Nish Kumar, I went to MacFest and I think he was going in somewhere for a meal, but he was talking to fans outside the room because they like caught up with him, like talking to him. And I stood next to him, but I froze instead of saying something, I just froze and I couldn't say anything. And it's like the one that like got away because he was
Yeah.
not even walking fast. I could have just been like, Nish, and he would have come speak to me. But
Oh,
I froze because it was the fourth comedian I ever met. So
right.
it was
Yeah.
kind of like I wasn't used to it.
Yeah. Have you actually been to the Edinburgh Fringe?
So yes and no. I went when I was quite young, but I didn't see comedy. You know, the street acts.
Yes.
I saw them and I saw a guy lay on nails, and it's enough to put me away from going. I am going
Really?
though. I am going next year.
Oh, great. The Edinburgh Fringe is just for a comedy fan. It is like paradise. It is incredible. And I met Nish Kumar last year, 2021, at the Fringe. Um, and he was super super lovely, really really sweet. And then this year at the Fringe, I saw him around all the time. I didn't really actually like go and say hello this time. But there was one time that I was stood in the Pleasance courtyard and I was looking at my phone. I sort of just turned to my left, and Nish Kumar was just standing right next to me on the phone. I was like, that's just he's just right there. That's fair enough. And then there was another time that I was like in a group of people at the courtyard just speaking. He sort of just wandered over and just sort of joined the group. I'm like, he's just he's just there. That's ridiculous. That's absolutely ridiculous.
Um, so I was told by Jack Barry, I don't know if you know him,
Yes, yeah, yeah.
that Edinburgh Fringe would be better when I turn 18, and I'm turning 18 the start of next year.
Yeah, I see. I went. I was 20. I was sorry. I was 17. In 2021 for that Fringe, and it was great. It was absolutely fantastic. But it would have been better if I was 18. But this year I was 18 for the Fringe, and it was an entirely different experience. Like going out to like the late night bars where everybody sort of hung out at night was just it was like you were entering a different world. It was insane. There's one bar in particular that we used to go to at night, and every single time I walked in, it was people like Phil Wang, Nish Kumar. They were just all there, and I'm like, that's insane. That's
Yeah.
absolutely insane. That's just the Fringe. It's incredible. It is.
I
But yeah,
think
when
I think one of the moments that like stays in my mind so much is another moment at MacFest, and I was actually talking to Jack Barry because I went to the same place and I ended up speaking to him. And literally on the table with him was so like Tim Key and Rose Mateo and like Emma City, like so many massive names, like Christopher Bliss. I don't like there was so many people
yeah,
that were just massive names, and it felt so odd.
yeah, I'm still like trying to get used to that different world because it really is like something out of a dream. It is incredible.
Yeah.
I haven't actually been able to get down to Mac, but hopefully next. I'm thinking about Melbourne next year, but I'm also thinking of Mac because Mac's like a weekend or whatever, so that shouldn't be too difficult to get to. But I didn't manage it this year, but I will because it's like it's in like my top 3 at the moment on like comedy festival bucket list.
Yeah. It was really, really good. It was like a BTEC Edinburgh, or what I imagine Edinburgh to be. It was really, really nice. It was my first time going this year, and just walking down the street and you see about 4 comedians. I think I literally met 5 comedians while having breakfast.
It's insane, isn't it? It's absolutely mad.
Like I
It's
was
incredible.
just like eating like an egg, and then like Glenn Moore walked past me. Glenn Moore?
Oh,
Yeah.
Glenn Moore is super sweet as well. I was flyering one time, and he had a show at the Pleasance Courtyard as well. Um, and he had the best fringe title in the world. It was "Will You Still Need Me? Will You Still Feed Me, Glenn? I'm 60 more." Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And so he was coming into the courtyard one time. I turned around to him. I was like, "Oh, I'm really sorry. I just needed to say you've got the absolute best fringe title in the world. It is brilliant." And he's like, "Oh, thank you so much." And I was like, "Yeah, sorry. I was just about to flyer you, and then I realized who you are. Sorry about that." And he's like, "No, please flyer me. Who are you flyering for?" And he let me do my entire pitch to him. It was great. He's so
Oh.
sweet.
Who are you
Yes.
who are you flying for? That was
So I
your
was I was flyering for Impatient Productions, like
okay.
the entire. And I've actually got, hold on, I've got a tote bag with all the different names on them. Somewhere.
Okay.
Okay, so we've got. It was it was technically Mark, but he did not need flyering. He was selling out every bloody day. Same as like Josie Long and all them. So it was Will Duggan, it was Sarah Mills, Milo Edwards, it was Kwame, Lily Phillips, Justin Morehouse. Oh, I accidentally in the first week of the Fringe, I was super 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 tired, and I was just flyering everyone. and and I went to flyer someone. I was like, "Hey, can we interest you in a comedy show? It's Justin Morehouse. He's super funny. He's been on Peter Kay's Phoenix Nights. You're gonna absolutely love him." And then he just looked at the flyer. He's like, "That's me." I was like, "Oh fuck! Oh no!" And yeah, I'd accidentally flyered him for his own show. Um, and then I went in to go and like watch the show, and I went to like the little back corner where he was, and I was like, "Mate, I'm so sorry." And he just gave me the biggest hug. He was like, "It's okay, don't even worry about it. It's absolutely fine." He was super sweet. Um, John Luke Roberts, I was another one. Finley Christie, Andy Field, and then there was like a couple of compilation shows. So like Cabaret Impedimenta, that was run by John Luke Roberts. Terrible Wonderful Adaptations, we were flying for that as well. Um, Julia Masley, that was someone else. So yeah, quite a few different ones. And they all had really, really different shows, and it was really nice getting to actually like flyer for all the different. Like Julia Masley, she's a clown from Estonia. Her show was just it was like a piece of theater. It was incredible. It was so funny, and like it was actually like a real pleasure to get to flyer for them.
Yeah.
Um, because they were lovely people, and I loved all their shows so much. I did.
I think Edinburgh just seems like a dream. I'm like very excited.
Is it's if you're working at Edinburgh and like doing if you were to go, would you be going on lineups and all that? Is that something that you'd be interested in doing?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Yeah, it's really really nice. The shows can be hit or miss because there's so many different performers and so many people seeing different shows. Sometimes you can have like 100 people in a lineup show, and then sometimes you can have like four. Um, so it can be really hit and miss, but the vibe is always really really nice. It is. There was one show that I did. It was outdoors and it was around the back of a shopping center, and I started my 10-minute set with 8 people in the audience, and I finished my set with 2 people in the audience. they just got up and left. But then an hour later, I did another show to like 100 people, did the same set, and it went down absolutely fine. So you can have really, really, really lovely gigs at the Fringe. Like it is for a comedian, it's a really great stepping stone. It is. I think you'd really enjoy it.
Yeah. I know someone who has only recently started stand-up and did Edinburgh this year and really enjoyed it.
Yeah. Were they doing their
Like,
own show? They
yeah, doing their own show, like doing
oh,
like stuff that they have written.
oh wow, like a full hour.
I'm not sure. I think it was like 20 minutes, 10,
Oh,
20
okay.
minutes.
Oh
So
right,
not
okay. So
too long,
it was
but
like
like,
hopping on different people's like lineup
yeah,
shows.
yeah, kind of
Right,
thing.
yeah. That's the
And
best way to start.
yeah. But the thing is, I've never done the open mics. I've done online stuff. I've never done anything in person,
Oh,
which
okay.
is really scary. Um, a large amount of the open mics that I want to go to and that are open when I am free end up being 18 plus, so I can't go.
So
Um,
yeah, have you been to watch an open mic before?
I haven't. I need to do that as well.
It's it's a different vibe from like going to see like a comedian's hour or like a theater show. Like it's some of them can be super 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 lovely. So I was really lucky that the first open mic I did was at Monkey Barrel Comedy in Edinburgh. It was like super supportive. It was a really, really lovely room, lovely full room as well. So like if half the audience laugh, you get a laugh. Like it's a nice vibe. Um, but then I've done other open mics that have been there's been like 10 comedians on the lineup. There's been like 8 men and then like 9 men and then me. And then the audience, there'll be like two random people who've just stumbled into this open mic thinking it was just a bar, and it's been a bit of a nightmare. So that's why they have it as 18 plus, because most of the time it's like above a bar or like in a basement. There's a lot of people drinking. Um, but yeah, some open mics are super 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 lovely. There's one I do every Tuesday, which is in a cafe. It's like it's bring your own booze. Everybody knows each other. We've got regulars. It's like there'll be like 30 people there, and it's just really really lovely for like testing out new stuff or doing like just doing 5 minutes whenever you fancy it. It's really lovely. But yeah, I would recommend going to a couple like when you're 18. I'd recommend going to a couple of open mics first to get like the general vibe and like suss out the ones that you want to start out at, because some of them can be quite intimidating, but some are really supportive.
Yeah. Another thing is like I currently am unemployed. Like all I'm doing at the moment is college because it's quite literally taking over my entire life. I'm
Yeah,
in the last year of college and it's quite a lot. So
yeah.
I'm currently like unemployed. So the ones where you have to pay to do them, it just doesn't
Oh, don't ever do them. Don't ever do them.
don't do
It's
them.
no. A proper friendly open mic will never make you pay to get stage time. I have never ever 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 paid for stage time. Um except for like cost of fuel to get there or like the
Yeah,
train.
yeah.
To do the actual open mic, I've never had to pay. You'll get bringer shows where you'll have to bring like one person. Most of them are fine, but some like absolutely take the mick, especially down in London. So I've heard of bringer shows where people have had to bring like 5 people, and they've all had to like buy a drink each in order for that person to get stage time. That is rubbish. It's not the sort of
Yeah.
there's not the sort of vibe like there's not the sort of promoter that you really want to be working with, if you know what I mean. A good promoter won't make you pay for stage time. They might want you to bring one bringer, like, and that'll be it. But yeah, steer clear of ones that you have to pay for.
Where do you find most of the open mics? Like, do you go Facebook groups?
Yeah, yeah. So you'll get. Are you in any like sort of comedy forums?
I think so, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so that's where you find most of your open mics is through forums. Basically, someone will just put up saying, "Hey guys, I'm starting a new open mic. Here's the sign up sheet. Attach a video of you doing stand up." Most of them won't ask for it, but some of them want you to have like a clip prepared or whatever. And yeah, that's where I find most of them. A lot of people when they're starting out, and I did the same for about 2 months, was just going on Google and just typing in comedy open mic. But loads of them aren't actually listed on there, and you get nowhere with that. So yeah, Facebook is what I mostly use.
I'm in like, because I'm quite close to Manchester. I'm like Manchester open mic pages and stuff.
That's the best way to go about it.
There's one that's like on every week or every month that's like the 18 plus one that always like lands on a day that I am like free.
Yeah.
Which
How long is it until you turn 18?
it's like January the 6th. So
So
very
not
close.
too long.
Yeah, really, it's quite close. Right, okay. Moving on slightly. What year did you start doing stand-up?
I've not been doing it for that long. I did my first open mic November last year.
Okay.
So it's just coming up to a year that I've been doing stand up. So I'm still a little baby on the scene. Um, it's been fun though. It has. It's been a lot of
Yeah.
fun.
Do you like do them regularly? Like, would you say you do them like every week?
I started. So when I started out, I did one at the end of November, and then I didn't do another one until January, just because uni got in the way and life got in the way. But then from sort of mid February, I started doing like one or two a week, and October is quite quiet for me, because I've got a bit of a cold and I'm taking a little bit of a 2 week break. Um, but most of the time I'll have between like 3 to 5 gigs a week.
Okay,
So it
that's really good.
gets hectic. But it's
Yeah.
like I wouldn't swap it for anything else. Everyone always says stuff like, "Oh, but what about like your social life?" That is my social life. Like it's great. I like it's not something that I have to do, it's something that I get to do, which is
Yeah.
lovely. So yeah, I really enjoy like traveling to gigs like 5 times a week. It's awesome.
I also got told by one of the other people that I interviewed to do stand-up when you least feel like doing stand-up. Like when you wake up and decide that the last thing you want to do that day is some stand-up comedy.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, I don't think except for if there's been like a genuine like the trains are being cancelled, my car's broken or
Yeah.
whatever, like I don't think I've ever actually cancelled a gig because I've thought I can't be bothered doing it. I'll always because I know that I'll always enjoy it when I get there. Like
Yeah.
always, I get to see the lovely thing about the Scottish comedy scene, which I've heard from a lot of people is not the same down south, like especially on the London scene, is pretty much everybody on the Scottish comedy scene at this like low level, we all know each other. So
That's good.
if I do an open mic and there's 15 people on the lineup, I can guarantee that I'll be friends with at least five and I'll know at least like 10, 12 of them, which is always super nice. So I'll wake up in the morning and think, I cannot be arsed. I can't be bothered. I've had a really bad day. But if I go do this open mic, I'll at least get, even if I totally bomb, I'll get to see a bunch of my friends. I'll have a nice day with them and it's all fine. So yeah, I always, even if I don't feel like it, I'll always do an open mic if I've got it planned.
Yeah. I think that's such a good idea. Like, I didn't realize until recently that not all comedians want to act and do comedy all the time. So when you see a comedian on tour, it's not like they wake up every single day of that tour and be like, I want to do stand up today, especially because how much they're doing it.
Oh,
Sometimes
for
they will
sure.
just wake up and be like, no.
And the thing is it's draining. Like it is tiring. People like a lot of people say like, oh, but you're only on like, especially for me, like starting out, you're only on stage for like 15 minutes. It's like, yeah, but also like it's a 45-minute walk to the coach station for me. It's then 2 hours on the coach. I'm there for 3 hours and then it's all of that back as well. Like it is seriously, seriously draining. And then
Yeah.
comedians who are on tour having to go from John O'Groats to Land's End, basically doing every single city. It is, and then the same hour over and over and over again for the most part of a year. Like,
Yeah.
it is seriously tiring. And so, like, I can totally get when comedians, like, they get halfway through their tour and their heart isn't in it because it is really draining. But it is
Yeah.
always nice when you have that really lovely gig that sort of picks you back up, and then you're looking forward to gigs for the rest of the week.
Yeah.
It's really lovely.
What made you start doing stand-up? Like, what was the reason that you started?
So I was always like a really big comedy fan growing up, like since I was like 11, because I've got a slightly older brother. So my brother Pacey, he's 20. So when he was like 13, he was listening to comedians like Jimmy Carr and Frankie Boyle and Rod Gilbert and like comedians who he probably shouldn't have been listening to when he was 13, but he did, and he always made me listen to them as well. And I didn't tell him at the time, but I thought they were really funny. And then in my spare time, I'd listen to comedians like that, and like Kevin Bridges, people like Danny Boy. I would listen to when I was growing up. And then when I was 15, I went to see Kevin Bridges live. That was the first comedian I ever saw live, was Kevin Bridges. Um, but like I was a really shy kid. So when I got to 17, um, I've been toying with the idea of doing an open mic as like a confidence building exercise. And then Mark Watson mentioned that he was doing that decade project and that he needed I don't are you like involved in decade at all?
Not really, no.
So the decade project basically it's like a really it's like a really lovely like community driven thing where basically he's leading it, but you've got 10 years and you basically tick off as many or as little goals, as big or as small as you want over the next 10 years. Basically, set yourself like life goals or little stupid little things that you want to do over the next 10 years. And one of mine was to just do one open mic from like, I gave myself until I was 27 to do one open mic. Um, and I told Mark about it, and he's like, "Yeah, no, we'll fully support you in that." And I ended up doing one a month after I turned 18, and then just absolutely fell in love with it, and I've been roped in ever since, and it's taken over my life. But yeah, it was only supposed to be one open mic to just build my confidence, really, and it's just been
I
taken
think
too
that's
far.
I think that's so nice. I think that's such a good thing. Especially because it's 10 years as well. It's not like giving yourself a year, which sometimes can be quite difficult to achieve.
Oh yeah, it can be. Yeah, it's it's almost like you completely forget that you've actually got time frames, a time frame for your goal. It's like it's always in your mind that it's there because he's got like Discord chats going on, and like he'll do like online Zoom catch ups to see where everyone is, and if you like if you complete a goal, you know, you tell him about it. It's like it's a really lovely thing, but there's also zero pressure. Like I've
Yeah.
changed. One of my goals was to become an astrophysicist in 10 years. I ended up dropping out of uni. I don't do astrophysics anymore. Like it's zero pressure. You set your goals, and if you don't complete them, it's fine. If you do want to complete them, you've got 10 years. It's great. It's a really lovely thing to be involved in.
I like want to join that. That sounds so
Oh,
good.
for sure. Like he only started it last year, so you
Okay.
got 9 years left if you want to join us. It's genuinely such a lovely thing to get involved with. It is.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to look into that. That definitely sounds,
Absolutely.
especially because it seems like a really supportive like
Oh,
environment.
it
So
really is. It really is. Like the absolute best people get involved with it. It's so lovely.
I'm definitely gonna have to like look into it.
Absolutely.
What was your life like before stand up? Like I know you've only been doing it for a year, but has anything changed within your life?
Yeah, for yeah, for sure. I mean, I was like a complete. I feel like I was a completely different person before stand up, and like even in the ridiculously short time that I've been doing it, I've completely changed as a person. So I was like I said, I was doing astrophysics at uni. That was sort of my path. Before that, I'd done taekwondo. Like I had so many different paths that I was going to go down. Being a comedian was never even on my radar whatsoever. Like Actually, I remember I was speaking to my old English teacher about this not too long ago. Because there was one English teacher that I kept in touch with because she's an absolute legend. But I remember getting up to do a presentation on like Shakespeare or something at school and just breaking down in tears because I couldn't do it. Like I couldn't actually get up to speak to people at all. And like even in my jobs, so like I was a pot wash. Like I'd literally washed dishes in a restaurant for 3 years because I was too scared to actually do the waitressing because I couldn't speak to people at all. Um, and since doing stand up, my favorite thing to do at Greg's is to be at the tills speaking to people. Like
That's so
it's
cool.
changed my I think it's changed my entire character for sure. For the better as well. That is.
Yeah. I mean I've only done online, but I can already feel the effects of that.
Yeah.
That I mean that's online as well, so I can't even imagine what it's like doing it in person and like actually standing up in front of people. I like have a hard time like making friends just because I hate talking to new people. I just don't like the feeling of like when I met my college friends, I literally the first questions I asked were, "Do you like James Acaster?" And we went on a conversation. But it just I have a hard time talking to new people,
Yeah.
and I think that doing stand up, even online, has helped that.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is, the lovely thing with stand up is like growing up, I didn't have any friends at all. Like I live with one of my high school friends. She was like one of three friends I had growing up. Um, and but since doing stand up, you everyone's got like the same interests. Like they're all like minded. It's great. So you go into an open mic and you just make friends with everyone. It doesn't matter how old, young. It doesn't matter who they are. You've all got that like what at least one common interest, and it really does like bring people together. It's super 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 lovely, and it's like since doing stand up, this is the most social that I've ever felt,
That's so
which is
good.
nice. Because
Yeah.
I'm constantly talking to people now, which I never did at school. I literally like at lunchtime used to bring my packed lunch to the library and just read a book or just sit on the computer, not talking to anybody. So it's really nice to see how like stand up can actually impact your personal life more than anything. It's
Yeah.
really nice.
What is your stand up about?
I do See, I'm like really uncreative, so I just talk about whatever's happening in my life at that point. So like I talk a little bit about like dropping out of university. I talk quite a lot about working at Greg's, um, like high school life, that sort of thing. It's like observational and storytelling more than anything. I'd love to be one of those comedians who could do like proper alternative comedy. I've got a couple of friends who are really, really good at that, but I don't have the creativity for that. So yeah, I'll just talk about whatever is happening in my life, really.
I think I'm in a really lucky position. I mean, depends how it's if I'm lucky, but like my legal second name is Beadle, which means I got the whole like Beatles belt thing, which allowed me to
Right.
like write like 5 minutes on that, which was really good.
Yeah. It's nice when like little things in your life you can turn into like 5 minute sets. I'll have like I'll do something. Uh, like I'll be working at Greg's and like somebody will just say something, and I'm like, that's a 5 minute set. There was one thing when I was first starting out there. I was going through the till because there's like a huge great big like electronic till and there's like 100 different buttons, and I was just making sure that I knew where everything was on the till. And there's one button, and all it says is "woman's free hot drink," and it's a button that you can press on a Greg's till. And I was so confused by it, and just like ended up making it into a 5 minute set because I was like, well, I
Yeah.
find that really funny, so I'm gonna turn it into a set. I did find out what it was. It's got a really boring answer that I don't put in the set. It's just for like women's magazines, like the vouchers that you get. But
Okay.
I was like, I'm not gonna put that in the set. I'm gonna make this about like feminism or something.
I mean, I think I get maybe a 5 minute set out of the like the pound coin thing, like the machines.
I think so. I think that'd be a really good one to do, for sure.
Yeah. Like, but with like the Beetle thing, I never got it from students. Like, it was never people my own age making fun of me. So I was able to also go through the route of how teachers sometimes bully students.
Yes.
And I can't spell, like, my spelling is awful. And they used to make fun of me and be like, call them alien words and stuff. So I got like a 5 minute set out of that. So the next question is, what is your favorite joke that you have ever told or heard?
Oh, okay. How rude am I allowed to be?
Honestly, go ahead.
Okay. Uh, the one that immediately comes to my mind for the best one I've ever heard. It was a Gary Delaney joke. I don't know why this one always stuck with me. Um it's just a quick one-liner. It's I filled the escort with diesel, she died. It's so it's so unexpected. It's so good. It's awful. It's terrible that she died, but I mean, that one always sticks with like if anyone ever says tell me a joke, that always pops into my head and I'm like, no, I can't say that. That's but yeah, Gary Delaney is such a good one-liner comic. There's another one from Tim Vine. Um
Okay.
he has a prop. He has it written out as well. But he just says banag, that's bang out of order. That's it's so it's so stupid, but it's great. And then there's one in my set where so we um all my like comedian friends, we always say that we've got like crutches, and crutches are like jokes that we always rely on. So like if a set isn't going well for us, there'll be like one joke that we'll tell in our set that'll like bring it back. Um, and we know each other's crutches as well, so we always know when one of us is panicked on stage, and we bring out that crutch, and then we always take the mick out of each other afterwards. But mine is about moving to Dundee. So I say that two facts about Dundee is that it's the most affordable place to live for Scottish students, and it's also been deemed as Scotland's drug capital. So when I told my parents that I was going to be moving to Dundee, I told them I was going to be moving for the academic and research facilities at the university. That's a load of rubbish. I moved to Dundee because I get a student discount on cocaine. That's like that's that's like my crutch joke that I use whenever I like whenever I'm doing like a big gig and I need like a relatively okay laugh, or if I panic because I've forgotten my set, or the audience aren't on board. That's like the one joke that I use.
Yeah, yeah. It's a good joke.
Thank you.
I got really upset because Gary Delaney recently played in my town, like literally what, like 5 minutes away from here.
Really?
But it was really upsetting because it was the day that I went on holiday.
Oh, that's really annoying. I saw Gary at the start of he was actually the last comedian I saw before COVID hit. So I saw him in I think February 2020. Um and he's another one who is just an absolute sweetheart. He's super super lovely. I remember back in 2019 I was doing an English essay about um like freedom of speech and comedy. It was an argumentative, so it was like both sides um of the freedom of speech argument. Um, and I put out like a general shout out on Twitter for like quotes and recommendations and opinions from comedians about the subject. And he DM'd me with like articles that he'd been part of and that he'd read, and like he gave me quotes for it. He was super super lovely. And then I met him at that. I met him on his tour. Like he waited back to say hello. And we chatted away to him for ages. Like he's super super nice. Um, and then I mentioned to him that I'd love for him to come to Dumfries to do a gig, because that's where I was growing up at the time, and no comedians ever came to Dumfries. It was like Mark Watson, and then like a couple of Scottish comedians. And he's like, yeah, no, I'll put that on the list of places. And I was like, he's never gonna come to Dumfries. It's a long shot. And then on his next tour, after I'd moved to Dundee, which is 3 hours away, I saw that he'd put Dumfries on the list. And I was like,
So
oh,
sweet.
so he did end up doing Dumfries, but I didn't get to go to it because I live so far away now.
That's so sweet. That's really sweet.
He's awesome. I love Gary Delaney to death. He's brilliant.
He does give a vibe that he would be so sweet to meet.
Oh, he's just the best. He came out with like a giant foam finger, and I've got a picture
Yeah.
of him like pointing to me with this giant foam finger. It's great.
Was that there was a whole joke about that one. I think he did it on Live at the Apollo. I don't know if it's the same joke, but there's a joke with the foam finger on Live at the Apollo.
I know the joke. I can't remember the joke, but I know what you're talking about. But he for this, I don't know if he did it every day or if it was just this tour. He just decided to come out holding a foam finger. It was like,
Okay,
what?
so it wasn't a
What
joke.
is this man do? I can't remember if he actually did a joke about it because it was a couple of years ago now. But
Okay.
I don't think it was related to the Live at the Apollo one. But I know what you're talking about though.
Yeah. I do think my favorite moment when I met a comedian was James Acaster knowing who I was the
Oh, that's
nicest
very
moment of my
cool.
life. Um, Basically what had happened is James did a show so long ago, like literally 2016, of him and Jack Barry and Emma Siddy and Stuart Laws going to Liechtenstein, and it's called Sweet Home Liechtenstein, and it's just him walking around the place and being like, "This looks cool. Look at me in this place." That's basically what the show is. And they have like this whole joke where like they're the Bear Bros, and I dressed up the way that they did in the show,
Oh,
and I
brilliant.
put it on my Instagram. And obviously James Acaster doesn't have social media. So what Jack Barry did when he saw it and sent it to James, and then I went to go
Oh,
see James live and I met him after the show. He pulls out his phone and he goes, "Is this you?"
that is brilliant.
So sweet.
That is absolutely
And
brilliant.
when I met Jack Barry, I did like a fan art thing of that show on a plate. Like I drew on I did like art on a plate. And I asked him if he remembered the plate, and James Acaster remembered the plate, and like it was so
Oh,
sweet.
that is incredible. That is brilliant.
James literally spent about 10 minutes talking to me. It was so nice. Like there
Oh,
was so
that's
many
so
fans
lovely.
and he was just talking to me.
That
It
is
was
great.
like I think that's my favorite comedy moment.
Yeah.
Like of meeting a comedian.
Oh, rightly so.
Um
That'd be awesome.
yeah. Especially because James is the one that got me into comedy. Like I hated comedy for so long. I refused to watch it. I
Really?
hated stand up.
Oh, okay.
And then I saw James Acaster's repertoire, and everything in my life just changed from that point.
Yeah. I love that sort of that turning point
Yeah.
for things. My I can't remember the comedian. I mean, I was listening to like Jimmy Carr and Frankie Boyle because of my brother. Um, but Kevin Bridges, I think no, it'd be Danny Boy. He's a Scottish comedian.
Yeah.
He doesn't do much TV. Do you know
I
of
do
Danny
know.
Boy?
I do know.
Oh, he's brilliant. He was one that I grew up watching, but I was such a big fan of him because he's from Dumfries and Galloway, and like I never hear of anybody being from Dumfries and Galloway. So for him to be like such a cool comedian, like super funny, like selling out like the Edinburgh Playhouse, I'm like, oh my god, this guy is like he's got the same accent as me, and like he's actually like out there achieving. And then there was another comedian, guy called Mark Nelson. He's also from Dumfries. He's a fantastic comedian. Um, and so those two, I was like, okay, if they can do it, then it's gotta be possible. Someone from Dumfries being able to do this. And very recently, I actually got to gig with Mark Nelson, which was
So
just brilliant. It was, and he's super lovely as well.
that does sound really nice. How do you normally write your jokes? Like, what is the process behind writing your jokes?
Um, it's actually changed quite a lot over the past couple of months. So I used to get like my laptop and like a Word document out and like just sit and type word for word everything that I wanted to say, and I wouldn't deviate it. And like when I looked back at like my old sets, everything sounds so robotic because I'm literally like remembering an entire script off of my head, and like I would refuse to deviate like any single word away from this script. Um, so I would actually properly sit down and write out everything. Like I'd have an idea in my mind. So my first like set was about trying to buy a soup ladle as a 17-year-old. Like I'd had a bit of a thing in B&M where they turned around, they were like, oh, you can't buy soup ladles if you're under 18. And I had a whole bit about that. I haven't done that bit in ages. I do want to come back and like rework it. But now it's very much a case of, if I think of something funny off the top of my head, I'll jot it down like maybe my phone notes, or like I keep like a little notebook with me pretty much all the time, and I'll just jot down like a little bullet point, and then I'll go to an open mic. I'll normally go to shout out Open Comedy in Leith. That is the loveliest open mic I've ever been to. Um, I'll go to a place like that just with my notebook, and I'll just like run through it like out loud. It sort of half works at the time, but I'll sort of just try and get out like into words, and then I'll come back the next week and it'll be more solid, if you know what I mean. So that's sort of how I do it.
I write my stand up through my notes, like my notes app on my phone. And then ever so often I'll like copy it and print it out. And then I'll highlight little bits. And I'll be
Yeah.
like, this can go into this show, but this can also go into that show.
Yeah.
And I can get like a 5-minute set from like 2 bullet points.
Yes. Yeah, yeah. You'll also find like when you like, so the most difficult part for me when I was doing like when I was starting to like 10, 15 sets was trying to piece everything together so that it fit nicely into like the allotted time. But like you soon just start, like I used to like time everything down to the second. Like I'd start a stopwatch, say everything, stop the stopwatch, and see what time I'm on. But now, because I've done certain routines like 60, 70, 80 times, I know how long they take. So I can be like, okay, that takes me like a minute 20 seconds. I can fit that in there, I can take that out, and like I can do this literally like whilst I'm walking to the gig, which is
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
Because they'll be sometimes you turn up to a gig and like you've got a set that you've planned out, but either like the audience aren't going to be right for that set, so you've got like 10 minutes where you need to think in your brain like, okay, I need to adjust this, I need to swap this out, put this back in. Or like a comedian before you will say something that you that'll actually fit in quite nicely with something else that you do in like a different set, and it's like, oh, actually I can like bring that in. And like you get used to where you know exactly what you can fit into where, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So like I very, very rarely like write down full sets now.
When I was started writing it, I remember my first joke was actually about Jack Barry, which was the weirdest thing. But I didn't mention his name. I never mentioned his name. It was more that Jack was the one that told me to do stand up. I mentioned that I wanted to do it, and he was just like, "Well, get along with it. You should do it." Like, just the quicker you get yourself out there, the better.
Yeah.
So he just
Yeah.
like told me to do it, and I wrote my first stand up like joke about him,
Aw.
and it was basically me just being like, there's only ever 2 reasons that a comedian will tell you to do stand up. One, you're going to do really good and they want to see you succeed. Or two, you're going to do really bad and they're going to it's be that bad that it'd be funny. No, I said it
Yeah.
would be really good because I want to steal your jokes. And then it's really bad that it can be funny.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
And I actually told him that joke last time I went to go see him and I made him laugh, which was like such a precious moment.
Yeah, that's a victory, that is. I remember last year's Edinburgh Fringe, I went to see Jen Ives. She is fantastic. And I waited behind at the end of the show, and like she recognized, because we followed each other on Twitter for like about a year. She recognized me from Twitter, and we got speaking, and she just turned around, she's like, "Have you ever considered doing stand up yourself?" And at that point I was like, oh, I don't know, like I might try like an open mic, but I'm like really, really shy. She's like, I think you should just give it a go. And then I put on Twitter like a week before I was supposed to do my first open mic saying, uh, hypothetically, if a friend of a friend was going to be doing an open mic, what advice would you give them? And she commented back saying, hypothetically, I would tell your friend of a friend, blah blah blah, and she gave me like loads of lovely advice.
That's so sweet.
And then the following week, I put up like the photo of me doing stand up, and she commented back being like, I knew you'd do it. I knew you'd give it a
So
go.
sweet. That is so sweet.
Lovely. She really is.
I remember like the similar thing happened with Jack, but it was literally just like I said, I've done stand up now. Thank you, Jack Barry, for actually making me do it. And he just typed back saying congratulations. And it's like one word, but it meant so much to me.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. For
It
sure.
was it was so nice.
That's really lovely.
Speaking of advice, do you have any advice that you would give someone starting out?
Um, I would say if you I don't have much actual like comedians advice because I've been doing it for such a small amount of time. But for actually starting, if you have any interest in doing an open mic, do it. Just do it. You've got absolutely nothing to lose. It's such a big like character building thing as well. Um, Especially like if you're into stand up, if you really turn around and say I want to do an open mic, but like I feel too nervous, I don't think it's going to go well. Put all that to one side and just think, yeah, it's going to be horrible when you get up on stage for the first time and you're looking out at everyone, but it'll be the best thing you ever do for sure. Um, like you don't confident people rarely do well at like their first open mic because it doesn't mean as much to them, if you know what I mean. So there's so many open mics I go to where there'll be like a group of like young lads there with their hoods up and they've got like bottles of Buckfast and like they're daring their mates to go up and like they get up all confident with like nothing prepared, thinking that they're gonna absolutely take the roof off, and they're the ones that die. It's the people who actually genuinely have an interest and want to give it a go and take it seriously, but are like really, really nervous about it. They're nervous because they want it to go well, like it means something to them. That's why they're nervous. So it's good to be nervous at your first couple of gigs. It wears off. Like it's you that nervousness turns into excitement like the more you do it. But if you're absolutely dreading going on stage, you're doing it right. If you know what I mean. It's a weird thing to say, but yeah, if you feel like you're too nervous to do it, you're not too nervous. Like it will probably be fine, absolutely fine. Um, Another thing is there's so many uh what you call open mic comedians on the scene who will um they will listen to your set and they'll turn around and say, "Oh, you should swap this punchline for that. I can rewrite that joke for you." Don't listen to any of them. Listen to the people who've been doing comedy for like 20 years. But if someone like me came up to you and said, um, I can rewrite your joke, just take it with a pinch of salt and don't rewrite it. Because I genuinely think that like all your punchlines should come from you, if you know what I mean. Like it's you that you're portraying on stage. And like audiences aren't stupid as well. They always know when you've like stolen a joke from someone else, if you know what I mean. So always go with what you want to do. Whatever makes you laugh, that's what you do. Because comedy should always make you laugh more than anything,
Yeah.
if you know what I mean. Um, and yeah, just go for it. There's literally nothing to lose. It'll be the best. It'll be the best experience of your life for sure. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's pretty much it.
I'm genuinely thinking about doing one like the weekend, because my birthday's on a Friday. I'm very tempted to do a weekend gig if there is one. Like a weekend of like as soon as I turn 18 kind of thing.
Oh, for sure. Like absolutely go for it. Or at least like when you turn 18, like at least go and like watch a couple and like
Yeah.
suss out the ones that you want to do. Um, but yeah, there's genuinely no better feeling, and you'll meet so many like-minded people at like your local open mics. Some of them can be really, really lovely people, lovely places to actually like meet new friends as well. Like, so yeah, I would 100% go for it.
Yeah. Do you have a dream comedy partner? So like say you're gonna go on tour and you have to go on tour with someone else, who would it be?
Oh, that's That's a tricky one. There's so many people who I'd be like, if I got to do tour support for them, that'd be like I'd be absolutely winning. A lot for most Scottish comedians. I mean, to do tour support for Kevin Bridges, that is like so. Like Susie McCabe has just done tour support for Kevin Bridges, and when we found out that it was her doing tour support, like the entire Scottish comedy community was like, "Yes, it was fun." Susie McCabe. It's absolutely brilliant. Um, so that'd be great to go on tour with someone like that. Um, but also like genuinely like I'd love to just go on tour with the or like do shows with the people who I get along with. So there's a lot of comedians who are at like the same level as me, like just doing open mics. And like we've all talked about doing like split bills at the Edinburgh Fringe in like the next couple of years. Just people who I get along with at open mics. I'd love to do like a three-way split bill with some of them. I think that'd be really
Yeah.
cool.
I think one of my dreams in comedy, I know it's such a small dream and it's the weirdest dream as well, because most comedians, when they're starting out, want to go and do like big shows and want to go and have that experience. For me, I literally just want to go out and I want to support someone on tour, someone that like I'm a fan of.
Yeah.
So like the dream, honestly, and it's so weird, is to support Jack Barry on tour. That is the dream. That's where I
Oh,
want to be in life.
that'd be great. I
Um,
get the whole thing with like tour, like wanting to do tour support for people.
yeah.
Because half the time, like the people that you're going to be doing tour support for, they're bigger names and they're people that you would have looked up to or like for me grew up watching half of them. So yeah, that'd be really cool to do tour support. That would.
Yeah. But like I see most comedians being like, I want to do like Live at the Apollo, I want to do like massive rooms.
Yeah.
And it's me, I just want to do a small gig and support for Jack
Yeah.
Barry. Like that's the
Yeah.
dream.
Absolutely. And do you know what? Now that I've started doing comedy, because like I go, I don't, I can't remember the last time I actually, oh, I did see Kevin Bridges a couple of weeks ago. But I can't remember the last time I actually like sat down and like booked to see like a big name comedian in like a huge, great big room. Because genuinely, since doing comedy, I found that the best gigs are like in little like 50-seater rooms with like 4 or 5 people on the lineup, slightly drunk audience who don't really know that much about comedy or anything. Like they are the loveliest rooms to definitely to play, and they just have like a different atmosphere to those great big like theater shows or arena shows, if you know what I mean. So I love being in tiny little rooms, like watching comedy or doing comedy. It's the best. It really is.
I can like relate to that in a way. I went to go see Ed Gamble in uh, Manchester Opera House, which is like a massive room. There's like 3 stories to it. It's massive. And then I saw Helen Bauer like 2 days later in a small room that has like a small like floor area and there's like an upstairs with like tables and stuff. It's called the Frog and Bucket. It's such a small
Oh,
room.
I'm actually I'm playing Frog and Bucket next month. I'm doing their gong show, Beat the Frog, which
So cool.
I'm nervous, but I'm really looking forward to.
Can you watch the gong shows? Like
Oh
just
yeah,
being an
yeah.
audience member?
Yeah, absolutely. You can just go along. And what happens at a gong show is it's typically 3 audience members will be given red cards.
Yeah,
And if they're not enjoying the act, they can put up the red card whenever they like. When you've got 3 red cards, you have to get off the stage.
yeah.
But if the audience don't put the cards up, then you get through. And it's all selected at random, so you can go as an audience member and just hope that you get one of the cards, and you basically dictate who goes through and who doesn't.
I think in terms of like tour partners, I'm like really quite good friends with Kathy. Like she's
She's
one of
great.
my best friends,
Yeah.
and like we literally became friends because I like changed my pronouns on my account, and she noticed, so she sent me a message being like, "I'm really proud of you," which was so
Oh, that's
sweet.
lovely. Yeah.
Um, and I think I'd love to go on tour with her. I think going on a tour with Kathy would be
Oh,
so
that'd
good.
be wild. That'd
Yeah.
be hectic. That'd be great. Um, Mia is hectic. She is.
Yeah.
But Kathy, uh, Kathy would be a lot of fun to go on tour with. I met her at the Fringe this year, and she's super
Yeah.
lovely. She
Yeah,
is.
yeah. I've only met her once. Met her at MacFest, but she's absolutely lovely. Like I didn't know where I was, and I was kind of stuck, and she like noticed me and was like, "Yeah, you good?" Really
Oh,
sweet. And like she had a map, so like she let me like take photos and like know where I was going and stuff, which was really
yeah.
sweet.
Oh, that's really lovely. She's very sweet. She is.
So the next question is social media. Have you found that social media has helped you like get known within comedy?
Yeah, definitely. So like I used Twitter a lot as just like a comedy fan. Um and I was always that person who'd like if I ever went to see a comedian, it doesn't matter like who, like if it was a big name or a small name, like I'd always tweet out after the show um saying that I like really enjoyed the show and whatever. Um
That's sweet.
and that got me like introduced to a lot of comedians. And there was actually so there was one comedian that I went to see when I was like 15. His name's Mark Jennings, and I was a huge, great big fan of him like growing up, and I saw him when I was 15. Um and uh I tweeted him out like after the show to say I'd really, really enjoyed the show, and he started following me on Twitter and sort of interacted a little bit with Twitter, and I ended up like on the same lineup with him like years later. And I remember like screenshotting the poster and like send it to my mum, being like, "Oh my god, look who I'm on a lineup with!" And then so I arrived at the gig, and then he arrived at the gig, and he's like, "Oh, Chelsea, you've been like such a big comedy fan for years. Like, I'm really, really interested to see your stuff." And like there was a couple of comedians like that who had like I tweeted to say that I'd been to their shows, and then years later I found myself like on lineups with them, and they were like, "Oh, it's really interesting that you've turned from like a massive comedy fan and now like you're on lineups." Um, and then also like so obviously like we were talking about like comedy forums on Facebook. The lovely thing is if you get like a shout out from a comedian in a forum like that, like other promoters will take that quite seriously. So I've been really lovely enough. Like it's been really lovely that a couple of comedians have like given me like little shout outs to say like, "Oh, Chelsea did quite well at this gig, like give her 10 minutes or whatever," and it's really helped to actually like get my name out a little bit. Um,
That's so good.
and yeah, it's really handy having social media. I totally understand why a lot of comedians don't have social media. Um, I totally get it, but yeah, it is handy in some
Yeah.
regards.
What is your favorite moment in your stand-up career?
Oh, that's a tricky one because there's been so many cool things, but like things that I'll say that other people are like, that's the coolest thing. I think for me personally, being on the same lineup as Mark Jennings was like a real high point for me because I'd literally like he was one of my favorite comedians, and like he's not like been on TV much or anything like that. He's well known on the Scottish scene. He's sort of breaking into the English scene a bit now. Um, but being on a lineup with him was just like it was really, really exciting. Um, I think my first paid gig was like a real high point as well. I think I spent more on petrol getting to the gig than I actually got paid. But it was 20 quid for 10 minutes, and I thought
Good.
I've just like it was the whole thing of being like, oh my god, I've just like earned money like from doing comedy. That is insane. And I remember just sitting in my car with the two £10 notes, just staring at them for a while, just being like, somebody's just giving me money for like making people laugh. Like that is like mind blowing to me. Um, so I think that was like two like monumental moments for me. I think that was really, really cool. and then getting like my first like proper shout out in the big like Scottish comedy forum. That was really, really lovely. And I again like I screenshotted it and sent it to my mum. And I was like, "You're not, I'm not crying. You're crying."
I think sometimes the smallest things in someone's career can be the best.
Yeah, absolutely. There's also so there's a comedy club called the Stand Comedy Club. They've got like one in Glasgow, one in Edinburgh, and one in Newcastle. I've been to all three of them. Like I saw Kevin Bridges do do a tiny little work in progress at the Newcastle Stand to like 80 people. Like I've seen like all my favorite comedians at all of these clubs, and I grew up watching people in these clubs. And um, on my 19th birthday, I got to do 5 minutes at the Stand, and that like when I got the email to say because it's an open mic, anyone can do it, but because hundreds and hundreds of people apply to it, it takes months for them to actually get you on the bill. Um, so I got an email through like a month or so before saying, "Hey, are you up for 5 minutes on October 3rd?" And I phoned my mum within a minute of getting that email, being like, "Are you free for my birthday on October 3rd to come to Edinburgh?" And she's like, "Yeah, why?" I'm like, "Because I'm going to be at the Stand." And she's like,
Oh,
"Shut up, no way." And like, she was like screaming down the phone because this was like the club that she would like take me to go and watch all my favorite comedians. That's the club that I went to see Gary Delaney at, and like Mark Watson and Danny Boy, and yeah, to actually be on that stage with that like with the cowboy backdrop was just like it. That was a huge moment for me. Even though like I'd done like bigger rooms and like before then, that didn't matter. Like just being on that stage in that room was just something else. It really was.
I
So yeah,
think
that was
that's
that
so
was another.
nice.
Yeah.
I think I'd love to do the Frog and Bucket, but also I can't do a gong show. I do not have like the self like if anything was to go wrong, if I was to even get one card, I think I'd collapse. And like I think my mental health was to go really bad. So
Yeah, I'm absolutely terrified for it. I've been dead against doing gong shows. I said like for the first like year, maybe 2 years, I would never do a gong show. But because Mia's doing this one, and also because I want to do Frog and Bucket anyway, and I have a lot of friends who've done that gong show. They say if you're gonna do any, do that one. It's the nicest one. So I was like, okay, I'll do it. But my what put me off doing gong shows was I'm not gonna name who it was because he's one of my best mates on the circuit. Um, and like he's a really, really, really good comedian. Like it wasn't like a reflection on him or anything. The audience were just very drunk. They weren't up for any sort of like alternative comedy, which is what he was doing. Um, it was one of his first gigs in the UK because he's from abroad. Um, he got through one joke 12 seconds and three cards went up, and he said yeah, that put me off gong shows for a long time. But yeah, I'm not surprised. That would be a bit stingy. That would. But yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it anyway. It'll be all
yeah.
right. It'll be an experience.
I've seen your stand up on like TikTok and stuff, and you do like your stand up very, very good, so you should be fine.
Ah, thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Like the stuff that you do your stand up about is just it's very good. I just
Ah, that's really lovely. Thank you.
do you have like a worst moment in your career? Like what's the thing that you regret the most or like something that's happened and it's like the worst thing?
I don't have anything that I regret at all. I never regret gigs. That one in Edinburgh where I started with 8 people in the audience and then finished with two, that was that it went so bad it was actually quite funny. So like I didn't really mind too much, but it was when I finished my set. I had got zero laughs for the entire gig, like not a single laugh. And I'm not exaggerating there, like not a single
So
one.
saying.
And then at the end of my set, I just turned around and I was like, you guys haven't enjoyed this, have you? And one woman in the front row just went,
Oh,
and then got up and took 5 of her friends with her.
that's so
that,
upsetting.
that was one. And then there's like there's gigs that I've done where I've got like literally 0 laughs. I've been the worst on the bill. There was one I did quite early on, I think like in March. It was like my 15th gig or something like that, so I was still really, really, really new. Got up, did a minute of material, completely blanked, forgot everything. Um, couldn't bring it. Like I stayed there for the entire 5 minutes. I was like, I'm not gonna leave the stage. I'm gonna try and remember it. And I managed to get through the routine, but it was bad. Like there wasn't a single laugh. And I remember seeing somebody in the audience just watching, just going, mm. And then the one person behind them, it was a couple. They just turned to each other and went, and I was like, oh no, this was like my 15th gig, so
Yeah.
that was a low point. But I've never regretted a gig. Like that was a huge learning curve that I need to be like going over my material more, or like just being not as uh not as meticulous with what I'm saying. Like give myself some leeway to do a little bit of like um improv stuff if things go wrong. Like so yeah, it's all a learning curve. It is, which
Yeah.
is nice.
Do you never take notes on you with you on stage?
Yeah, I do. It depends. So if I'm doing like a paid gig or like a 10-15 minute spot, I'll have my set, like the stuff that I know that I'm gonna do. I've done it like 1,000 times over. I won't try new stuff at those gigs. So I won't go up with a notepad. But if I've got like a new 5 minutes, I'll have bullet points and I'll always take a notepad up. I I'll try not to do it too much though, because sometimes I do end up like relying on the notepad and it makes me forget my set more. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I will take a notebook up sometimes. And like most open mics are really cool with you taking up notebooks as well. They
Yeah.
really don't mind if you're reading off of something.
Um, I don't. I have to at some point, but I could never imagine myself doing stand up without notes.
Right.
I think I depend on them way too much.
I get you. I get you. It does get far easier over time, um, because like you do like your set does just become second nature. A lot of new comedians, they rush to like constantly come up with new stuff like every single week. I don't really push myself to do that because I think it's more important for me to have like a properly nice flowing 10 minutes that I can do at like loads of different places than anything. So I've got a 10-minute set that is like just completely second nature to me. But then I've got other stuff that like I've done on stage before with no notes. But if you ask me to do it now, I wouldn't have a clue. I'd have to get the notebook out because I can't remember it. Um, but yeah, it does get easier to just go up and be confident that you're not gonna need your notes. But
Yeah.
it all comes with practice, really.
Um, I like in terms of comedy, I only do you know bring your own jokes?
I do, yes. I've
That's
done that quite a few
the
times.
Yeah, that's the only thing I've ever done. Um,
That's a really nice little that's a really nice little gig. Yeah, I sometimes I used to go to that one. I used to do that one to like try out new stuff. There's been some jokes that only the Bring Your Own Jokes crew have heard, and I've never said them on stage because they just don't work. Um, but the annoying thing is I do a lot of my gigs on Mondays now. So there's one at Monkey Barrel that I do pretty much every 2 weeks. I haven't been for a little while, but I do pretty much every 2 weeks. Called Free for All, which is an open mic that they run that's always on a Monday, and then 9 times out of 10 I'll have a different gig on
yeah,
like the Mondays in between. So I haven't been able to go for a while, but it is a really nice gig to start with. It is.
yeah. I think I'm gonna use uh bring your own jokes as like a practice thing. So like the first gig I ever did on Bring Your Own Jokes, I think that's the first ever thing I'm gonna ever do in person.
Yeah. I had a couple of really lovely moments at the Fringe where I would be like handing out flyers and people would be like, "Oh, I've seen you at gigs," and I'm like,
That's
"No
so
way!"
sweet.
The
Oh,
first time it happened, I full on cried. Like I walked away from the table like in tears because I think I was flyering for like Lily Phillips at the time, and I went to give them a flyer and I did like my whole pitch for Lily, and then I walked off and they were like, "Wait, hold on, 2 seconds." I was like, "Yeah," and they were like, "You're a comedian yourself, aren't you?" And I was like,
oh,
I guess. And they're like, "Yeah, we saw you like before the Fringe at Monkey Brow, doing they do a show called Top Banana, which is for like it's like a new material night that they do." They were like, "Yeah, we saw you at Top Banana. We thought you were really good." I'm like, "Shut up! No way! That's insane!" And it happened a couple of times over
sweet.
the Fringe, and every single time I got like a little lump in my throat, being like, "Oh my god, that's people actually like remember my jokes. That's mental."
Yeah.
It is.
So like your first time being recognized was like really nice.
Oh, it was lovely. Yeah, I genuinely I always phone my mum when anything like that happens. I was like crying down the phone, being like, "Somebody recognized me from
Oh,
Monkey Brow. Can you believe it?" And she's like, "That's so cool." I know.
that's so
Yeah,
cool.
no, it was really, really lovely. It was.
I think sometimes people can be, I know this is like completely off topic, but sometimes comedians can be judged for having writers or having people that they work with for jokes. And
Hmm.
like the truth is, I did a lot of my stand-up writing. I'd like record myself doing 5 minutes and then I'd send it to my uncle and then they would watch it and call me and be like, we can change this bit, but we can also add this here. You can make this
Yeah.
joke funnier by doing this.
Hmm.
And when I did a whole show about, well, 5 minutes about how they literally traumatized me by showing me a TV show from the 80s. It was quite funny to get their feedback and work on that with them.
My mum always I always I send them to my dad as well. But my mum is always like, when you've got like a new 5 minutes, like send it to me. I really want to see it. She never like gives me like tips or anything like that. She just really likes to see my material. It was there was there was one time that I did a 5 minute set about going on a night out with my flatmate, and I was talking about how we oh, she's just she's just texted me to say I just ordered a Chinese. I just saw at the top. Um, but there was one time that we went out drinking and we got very, very, very drunk. And we realized the next day that she'd ordered us matching vibrators. Just because she was really, really, we were both really, really drunk and we thought it'd be really funny. And so I did a set about this. And then my mum was like, "Oh, I heard that you've got 5 minutes of new material. Send it to me." I was like, "Mom, I'm gonna warn you, it's not like family friendly." She's like, "I don't care." I was like, "Oh God." So I sent it to her and she didn't really comment on it, but she did say the whole thing was about like vibrating them against the wall in like Morse code. And like I sent it to my mom and she's like, "Oh, that's a really good 5 minutes. Love the Morse code bit." I'm like, "Oh no." So that was, yeah. That's a set that I can't quite, my mom's like came to see me live twice now, and that's a set that I can't quite bring myself to do in front of her. But
Uh,
she does know that's in my set.
one of the comedians I was interviewing, um, basically she was making a joke being like, it's one thing to hear about like hear comedians talk about like that kind of thing on stage with your parents, and it's another thing to be said comedian and have your parents in the like in the audience.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. I always try and like tame down my material if I know that my parents are going to be uh
Yeah.
in the crowd. Um there's some jokes I genuinely I can't bring myself, like I've got like a full 5 minutes about like being on Tinder. I've got the stuff about like going out with Siobhan. Um I can't bring myself to actually like say that in front of them. They have seen the clip, so like they know that that's what I say. I just can't do it. I also I mentioned that my English teacher is a bit of a legend. She's like really supportive of me doing stand up, and she also asked to see my latest set. And my latest set was the one about my roommate, who we were both in her class at school. So she knows both of us. And yeah, I sent her this 5 minutes, and she's like,
Oh.
okay. I was like, I did warn you beforehand, Miss Vogue, that you were going to think of us very differently after you see this 5 minute set.
My teacher, like my business teacher, used to, like, I would send her the 5 minutes that I got from Bring Your Own Jokes, like they sent me after I did my stand-up, and she'd play it to the class.
Oh my god, that is insane. Were your class like supportive?
I mentioned to my teacher quickly that I did a 5 minute set the day before because she used to talk to me about Rob Beckett all the time. So I was like, I did some stand up.
Yeah.
And someone overheard me and went, oh, can we all watch it? Can we, like, because it was towards the end of the year. Can we all watch it? Like, can we all watch it? Let's watch it. And the first one, they were really like laughing at it. They gave me so many good feedback and just like it was really good. And the second one, they were all just like no one enjoyed it. I didn't enjoy it. My teacher kept asking me questions. And weirdly, I was talking about how, like, in the first one, I was talking about how I'm trans. And then I also mentioned the fact that I've got a boyfriend. And the fact that that's how I came out to my class. And the bit where they decided to give me a weird look was when I said that I had a boyfriend. Not when I said I was trans, but when I said I had a boyfriend.
Oh my god, that is a hell of a way to come out to a class. That is
Yeah.
that is incredible for a coming out story. My I I was bullied at school for different things, but like I was never bullied for being like a comedy fan. But like people thought it was weird that I was like a comedy fan because like I used to talk about Kevin Bridges all the time, and they were like, "Yeah, nobody cares. We do not care." But as soon as I actually started doing comedy, and like as soon as I like uh put up photos of like James Acaster and Nish Kumar and that, and I think it was this fringe as well. I think there was a photo of me having a drink with like Adam Rowe like during the fringe,
That's so
and the amount of them who are like, oh, that's so cool. I've always thought it was really really cool that you were into stand up, and it's really cool to see that you're doing it now, and like you're absolutely smashing it. Can we come and see you live and all that? Like if I had people like from back home and like who I did taekwondo with and people I went to school with who've like came to my shows now, and but they were all the people who were like, why are you talking about Kevin Bridges so much? Like that's weird. Is so weird. But I think now because like things like Taskmaster have become so huge now, and like everyone's watching British comedy. They're all like, "Oh my god, you've met James Acaster. It's really really cool. Can I come to your shows? Can I get free tickets?" Like, no, no, screw you all, screw you all. And like, they like I always put like clips on like my Snapchat and like on my TikTok, and they always like and they always like them, and they always like message me about them, being like, "Oh my god, that's so funny." It's like, no, you guys did not find me funny at school. You did not think it was cool that I was into stand up. Don't try and bullshit your way into this now so that you can come and meet all the other comedians. This is not gonna happen. But there was a couple of people. There was like one or two people who were always like super supportive of the stand up, and they've all seen me live as well now, and it's really nice that they were like really supportive of me doing like being interested in stand up at school, and now they've like came and seen me do stand up. I feel like other people's interest, if someone's so interested in something, even if it's something that you're maybe not particularly interested in yourself, it's almost infectious hearing how happy it makes someone else, if you know what I
Yeah.
mean. I could listen to other people's hobbies. I could listen to someone talk about steam trains all day. I've got no interest in steam trains. If it makes someone else happy, that's infectious. But like that's why um oh what's that guy who's really interested in trains? Francis
I
Francis
know who you're
Bourgeois.
talking about.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
feel like
I think
that's
so.
why he's done so well, is because watching his videos, even if you're not interested in trains, it's so like you feel yourself smiling at how happy he gets when a train goes past. And like yeah, I love when someone's so interested in something like that. It's really, really nice. It is.
I think that's another reason that I started the other podcast, the Chosen Subject podcast, because I've never turned down a subject. Even if I've known nothing about the subject, I've never turned it
Yeah.
down because how many times are people told to shut up if they've got an interest in something? So giving them like
Exactly.
a forum to be like, I'm interested in this, and you're
Yeah,
going to
that's so
listen to it.
lovely. That is
It's one of
so,
the
so,
reasons
so
that I started
lovely.
it.
Yeah. Oh, that's really, really cool. That is.
And then you also get like the joy of hearing them being like, I'm really interested in this, I really love it.
Yeah,
And my podcast always ends in like a minute full of like questions, and it's
yeah.
just like it's like mastermind basically, and just hearing them like when they get a question right is just so sweet.
Oh, that's really,
I
really
love
cool.
the podcast so much. I think in a few days I've got two of them podcasts to record in the same day, and I'm so excited
Oh,
just
that's
to hear people
lovely.
get like so happy about
Yeah,
speaking.
that's really, really cool. It is.
Um,
I'll for sure have to check that podcast out for sure.
yeah, we are on the last question now, which feels really weird because
Oh, I
this
have
has
fun.
been over 2 hours.
Wow. Oh shit. Sorry for taking up so much of your time there.
It's currently 9 o'clock and we started recording this at 7.
Oh my God. It's been a lot of fun though. I've really enjoyed this.
It has. This is not really a question, it's more of like a sign off note type thing. Do you have a note for past you? Like for you in the past when you just started comedy?
Do
Anything
I,
you
sorry.
wish you'd knew?
Oh, I think I think not to take it too seriously. Like if you have a bad gig, doesn't matter. Really doesn't matter. Like there was like my first couple of gigs went pretty well. Like I was quite lucky that I had really nice audiences. But then as soon as I got my first bad gig, I was like, okay, well, this is my comedy career over. Nobody's going to take me seriously. Nobody on this bill thinks I'm a good comedian. Like there's probably some comedians on that bill who still don't think I'm a good comedian, but like it doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. You'll do like 100 gigs in a year, and you might remember the bad ones, but nobody else is going to. Or if they do, they'll turn around to you and say, "Yeah, but it was a bit of a rubbish audience. Like it doesn't matter. Like it's." I wish I knew that beforehand to just really, really enjoy every gig for what it is, even if you completely bomb. So yeah, that's what I wish I knew.
My uncle mentioned the fact that they went to go see someone and it was like a 4-person bill, and because the comedian that was on after another comedian was quite late, so didn't see the show before, because they were both doing quite like current political things. It was like like the same jokes being retold,
Right. Okay.
and they didn't find the second person very funny because they had literally just been told the same jokes.
Right. Yeah.
So it does like apparently they were really funny. It's just because they'd literally just told the jokes. It was the audience
Yeah.
was kind of
Bad
used
time.
to it and
Yeah.
not finding it funny. But it was apparently really, really good. So I think it does just depend on the audience sometimes.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, yeah. That's why I always like to get to a gig early. I'm very rarely late to gigs because I like listening to the other comedians. That's my hobby is going to go see live comedy. So the fact that I get to watch all of them for free if I'm on the bill, that's great. And two is because I like to suss out like inside jokes in the audience or like things that have happened beforehand. And like if my set seems a little bit similar to someone else's, I can change it or like go really into that fact. So yes, it's nice to know what the other comedians are talking about and what your audience reacts to as well. So yeah.
Yeah. That's it. Which is really insane.
That is
It's been a really
insane.
good 2 hours.
That's flown by as well. I did not think that was 2 hours. This has been lovely. Thank you very much for having me.
You definitely have to come on Chosen Subject podcast. Like
I
you
would
definitely have to come on.
absolutely love to. I'm going to bore you about astrophysics.
Okay,
That's,
go ahead.
that's
Go
what I'm
ahead.
going to do.
The questions
I
might be a
love that.
bit difficult to write, but go ahead.
That's quite good because I dropped out, so I've pretty much forgotten everything anyway. I'll
Okay.
make it.
Okay. Thank you so much for your time today. Thank you very,
No,
very
thank
much.
you. It's been
Okay.
very lovely.